The A1GP Roadshow has rolled into Malaysia, where last year the heavens opened and produced a feature race that separated the men from the boys.
The victory goes to Germany.
Leading the early charge this season is Team New Zealand, and Jonny Reid will be brimming with confidence after that double victory in Brno.
So a fabulous win there for Team New Zealand.
Great Britain are lying third, just 6 points behind the Kiwis, and with Zandvoort feature race winner Ollie Jarvis back in the driver's seat, the Brits will be looking to close the gap. We're in Malaysia and the state-of-the-art Sepang International Circuit for round 3 of the A1GP World Cup of Motorsport. Today, it's qualifying. Expect this weekend to be a case of survival of the fittest. Not only are the weather conditions stiflingly hot, 33 degrees Celsius, but it's going to be wickedly humid at Sepang over the next 2 days, meaning that even the most well-prepared and acclimatised drivers will be tested to their physical limits. Wishing he was sweating it out with them, instead he's with us in the studio, Team GBR's Oliver Turvey and our very own motor racing expert, Tony Jardine. Tony, if I can come to you first. We've had an extended break between Brno and this particular race weekend. How best will teams have used that time to gear up for the Eastern Tour of the A1GP calendar?
This has been a difficult time for them. No one wanted to lose that particular race from Asia, but they did. And essentially, if you talk to someone like Mark Gallagher from Team Ireland, he says they've literally been kicking their heels. That's the beauty of A1GP. You're not allowed to test the packages. The car arrives as it is. You can't do anything until you get to the track. So they've been kicking their heels, frustrated. So a lot of people are going to be bursting out of the traps, I would expect.
Let's just take a look at this points table and where things stand going into this weekend. At the moment, New Zealand, the early leaders, a point behind them, South Africa. Great Britain and the Netherlands equal on points in third and fourth, respectively. And Season 1 champions France currently lying fifth at the moment. Let's just focus our attentions, though, on Team GBR, who are in third at the moment, and ask Oliver Turvey about Oliver Jarvis, who put in a pretty stunning performance in the car yesterday in free practice. He the right choice over Robbie, do you think, to get this drive this weekend? I know it's a tough one, I'm sorry.
That's a tough question, but no, he's doing really well here. He was quickest in both sessions yesterday, and he won the first feature race at Zandvoort, so you know, hopefully he can get us into the championship lead this weekend.
Very diplomatically held, I thought. Over to you, Tony, though. But Ollie comes in to this weekend in flying form, doesn't he?
Oh, sensational. I mean, that is the tough choice that Team GBR have. You know, you've got Kerr, you've got Jarvis, but Jarvis, to me, is so accomplished. He's just won the Macau Grand Prix. That is the World Cup of Formula 3, when all the best in the world aspiring drivers go there, and he cleaned up superbly with Toms. He's doing well in Japan. He's potentially got other offers in Japan with Formula Nippon and so on. And he's driving so well. It must be a tough choice for Team GBR, and hopefully Oliver's going to join them soon and get some rookie running done himself.
In the meantime, though, you're with us in the comfort of this studio. Hot and humid conditions out in Malaysia. How difficult is that to operate in, as well as have to think about everything else you have to do in the driving seat?
Yeah, definitely. It makes it a lot harder. It makes it hard to concentrate during the race. You know, the feature races are over an hour long, so it's going to be tough to concentrate in those conditions. But the drivers all train very hard. You know, we all work out in the gym a lot, and they should be able to do it.
Tony, will conditions have a bearing on team strategy, do you think, where qualifying is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, how you use the tyres, the track surface, it's been resurfaced, it's got a variety of corners. And, of course, you just don't know when the heavens are going to go open, electronic storms. You take 99 when they first went there on the opening lap in the Grand Prix. Both the Ferraris just spun off in a downpour. Anything can happen there, and they've got to be prepared.
OK, thanks, chaps, for the moment. So let's get over to the sticky conditions of Sepang to join Lee McKenzie, who's trackside ahead of qualifying. Lee.
Thanks very much, Georgie. Hello and welcome to a blisteringly hot Malaysia. It's a little bit different to where you guys are. You'll understand that when I got up this morning, it was already 80 degrees, and that was at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yesterday, track temperature was in the high 40s. Today is not going to be any different. But if I think it's difficult for me, imagine what it's like for the drivers. Team Great Britain's Oliver Jarvis joins me now. Ollie, how hot is it in the car?
Seriously hot. I mean, when you're going round, it's not too bad, but it's when you stop in the pits, you've got the engine heat coming over, and it's just unbearable at times.
Thing is, you guys have been going out doing maybe 15, 20 laps. Tomorrow, you've got an awful lot of laps to do, 2 races.
Yeah, we've got a 10-lap race in the morning and a 35-lap in the evening. It's going to be tough, that's for sure. You know, in practice, we're in the car for about an hour, but it's only short runs, so I think it's going to be very difficult for all the drivers, but we train hard, so hopefully we'll be okay.
Most immediately comes qualifying this afternoon. You've been very fast all weekend. Are you confident about the car and yourself?
Yeah, we've been very quick. We seem to have a bit of a problem then in the practice this morning, but I've got to say Switzerland and France are looking extremely fast, so we're going to make a few changes. Hopefully we compete for the pole spot.
I must congratulate you as well on that fantastic victory in Macau last weekend.
Yeah, no, a great weekend. Hasn't sunk in yet, but you know, straight back to business here with A1.
Ollie, thanks very much. Well, it's boding well for Team Great Britain for this weekend, but as Oliver said, it is Switzerland who are putting the fear of God into a lot of the teams out there. Neel Jani has got previous experience winning here before, but today he was extremely fast this morning and he seems to go very well at this Malaysian circuit. Not long though till we find out who will be in P1 for tomorrow's races. Back to you.
Lee, for the moment, thank you. Mentioned how important it is to be physically fit in order to be in contention here. John Watson's still a fine figure of a man, so we thought who better to road test Sepang. Here's his take on the track. But first, Lee Mackenzie.
Herman Tilker's beautiful Sepang circuit is a driver's favourite, and who better to advise John Watson than local hero Alex Yoong.
Alex, turn one, it's one of those corners that goes on, and then on the exit, you're just getting out of it, and suddenly you're facing the prospect of turn two, the slowest corner on the circuit, but you've got this great track width.
And it really makes for a really great first lap. You know, the first lap into this first corner, you have cars side by side trying to find room. And you often got cars trying to go around the outside, go around the inside, and because it's so wide for the second bit here, you'll see 3 or 4 cars wide trying to get to the apex first.
What are you going to do in turn two at the start of the sprint or the feature race? Because you've got all the width of track, some of the widest track of any we'll ever be to.
Depends where I am on the track. If I'm at the front, I'm going to try and be in the inside of turn one, and then try and get right across for the apex of turn two.
How do you avoid contact with other cars?
Well, the answer to that question is you can't avoid contact. It gets so tight here, and especially if you're in the midfield, you know you have to be resigned to some contact. You just have to be clever about it and make sure that the contact you have is in the right place for you, so it's not your front wing that gets lost. You maybe hit the side pod and you're on the inside for the apex.
Let's say you're on your own, you take the ideal line, you've got lots of curb on the inside. I've seen drivers get all 4 wheels actually off the racetrack to shortcut the corner.
Yeah, that's right. There's a nice bit of hard grass there you can use. And especially if you're diving down the inside of someone, you quite often see that all 4 tyres on the grass as they try and make themselves a bit more track. You will see some people try and break around the outside here, because if they do manage to hang around the outside through this corner, the next turn, turn 5, is a left-hander, so that they can be on the inside for that.
The Sepang circuit is magnificent, 5.54 kilometres and 14 turns. And here you see in turn 1, we've got a new surface, which is offering up a lot more grip than I had 1 year ago. Down into the triple right-hander, which comprises turn 3, and you then come on to the second fastest part of the racetrack, the run up into turn 4. Very wide here, and opportunities to pass, particularly at the start of a race. Neat and tidy through 4, particularly the exit, because you're accelerating and then flat out round turn 5, and then the switch back through turn 6. If you're too aggressive here, you'll find yourself in the gravel on the outside of the corner. The approach into turn 7 is easy to overrun. Drivers in practice have gone off here just simply by being too aggressive. The second part, turn 8, really is a blend of turn 7 and then downhill into one of the slow corners on the circuit, turn 9. It's a hairpin bend, very tight, and then you climb up out of that corner, second gear, third gear, up to fourth gear before you come to turn 10. Again, position is critical to get that good exit speed. Dropping down once again through the flat out 11 and then 12. A real roller coaster of a ride as you run up into turn 13. Always looking for the apex. In turn 13 it comes late, and try and feed the power on early to get a good exit speed as you come on to the fastest part of the racetrack, the back straight. 260 kilometers per hour up into turn 14. This is where overtaking will take place in both the sprint and feature races. Be neat and tidy around turn 14 to get a good exit onto the pit straight, and another joyous lap of Malaysia is complete.
John Watson alluded to it there. Let's get to Oliver Turvey's take on it. A smooth and a flowing circuit, one of the widest that A1GP visits. Can we expect plenty of gutsy overtaking manoeuvres, do you think, from this weekend?
Definitely. The Sepang circuit's a very modern facility, and the circuit's extremely wide, so there's some long straights and some tight corners at the end of the long straights, so there should be some good overtaking. And the A1GP cars allow the drivers to follow each other, which is really good. It provides exciting racing.
OK, Ollie, thanks very much. One of the best driving circuits, it certainly is, on the A1GP calendar. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, the first of the qualifying sessions gets underway from Sepang, Malaysia. Welcome back to Sepang in Malaysia, just about ready for the first of the 4 qualifying sessions to get underway. Remember that under the rule changes for this season, the fastest lap time from this qualifying session and session 2 will decide the grid for the sprint. Sessions 3 and 4 will determine the lineup for the feature. Humidity factor around about 66% out there. No sign of rain, no forecast intimating that that will be the case a little later on either. OK, let's hand you over to our commentators then, John Watson and Ben Edwards, who'll guide you through the early action.
Adrian Zaugg there for Team South Africa. Now he's on for a bit of run in terms of qualifying. He's looking for his 4th and indeed possibly even his 5th pole in 6 races if he can do it. Pole for both races in Zandvoort, and then 1 pole position last time out at Brno. It's been a tremendous start to the season, but he is, or the team is rather, 1 point behind New Zealand, courtesy of those 2 victories for Jonny Reid in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, such a strong run for New Zealand. Jonny Reid really dominated both events. It took a long time to get past this car. That's the Dutch car, the Netherlands, Jeroen Bleekemolen. But once that was accomplished, then it was all New Zealand. So cars coming down, brand new sticker tyres on the Indonesia entry for Satrio Hermanto. First car out on track, taking advantage of a clear track. There has been activity on the track since the cars completed their runs at midday, and we don't know how much difference that might or might not make to the track.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Remember, in each of the qualifying segments, you've got the clock ticking away in the top left-hand corner of the screen. It's only 15 minutes. This is the first segment of qualifying, but each car's only allowed 1 flying lap. So the out lap, they come round across the line, across the stripe, they do 1 flying lap, and then they come back into the pits at the end of the slowdown lap. That's the only opportunity you get in each of the 4 segments. And then your best time from the first 2 segments qualifies you for the sprint race. Your best time from the second 2 segments lines you up for the feature.
Indeed, and being first out on the track. Clearly, for Indonesia, they're not concerned about pole position because they're not really yet in a position to challenge for pole position, but they've got to make the best of what they've got, and on new tyres, clear track, and just simple focus, nobody around you. Well, give your driver the best opportunity, and Satrio Hermanto is going to do that for Indonesia. He ended up in 19th, quickest out of 22 this morning. His best time 1:51.315. So that's going to be the gauge or benchmark to judge what the circuit is like. It's 2.5 hours since these A1GP cars were on track.
That's right, and there's Alex Yoong for Malaysia, who's had a disappointing, by his standards, start to this 3rd season of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport, but may well have found some tricks to make him faster here this afternoon. We'll have to wait and see. We think, John, the only team that actually went for new tyres this morning was this one, the Czech Republic.
Yes, that was a sort of fairly, I think, reasonable thing for the Czech Republic to do. Erik Janis still really coming to terms with qualifying, going out stone cold from the pits out onto the track. So they gave him that run on a set of new tyres, that really they would have liked to have kept back for qualifying, but just to give him a little bit of experience on a new set of tyres at the end of that 1-hour session this morning was probably the wise judgment from John Village, who's looking after the Czech Republic team.
So let's see how Satrio Hermanto gets on here. He's driven around this circuit in the past because of racing in Asia, in the Asian Formula Renault series in particular. So he knows the place, he knows the conditions, and let's see if he can now string together a good lap. We've gone through turns 1, 2 and 3, heading uphill now, more so than it looks, up into turn 4. You talked to Alex Yoong about this one, looks pretty good through there.
Yes, I mean, you have to say, looks wheel perfect. Probably not as quick as we're going to see from others that will come later in the session. But the object is to get a strong, a solid lap in and then move forward from that. And when you're not in a car for a period of time, then you jump back in. Some drivers deal with that better than others. It's the experienced ones with that extra degree of confidence that manage it better.
Now let's see what happens halfway around the lap. Tricky braking area here. Quite often we see a lock up, but not here. He's on new tyres. He's got good grip from them, hopefully, and I think you'll see most of the teams using a new set of tyres for this session and for the second segment of qualifying. They may then use one of those two sets for the third segment and then bolt another new set on for the fourth and final segment this afternoon.
Comes down through turn 11 and 12, very quick down. It's a downhill and you've got to make a big commitment personally to get into turn 11, then switch back for 12 and then the blend into turn 13. Let the car run out to the side of the curb, some will run the curb. And now I'm onto the fastest part of the racetrack. This is the back straight, Penang straight, up to 260 kilometers per hour. Brake around about 100 meters or maybe a bit less if you're particularly courageous. And then tuck the car in for turn 14, keeping it neat and tidy again. Good acceleration off the corner and your lap's complete.
That's a clean lap, certainly from Sérgio Hermanto. A good banker lap, if you like, a 1:52.614. And how does that compare with what he did earlier?
Well, it's about 9/10 of a second away from the best he did this morning, but again, to be expected for most people. The first run, the first segment of qualifying tends to be slower than your best, but you've had the continuity of running over that 1 hour period.
Well, we're looking in the Malaysian pit, but we've got news from the pit lane, and I'm glad to say joining Lee Mackenzie and Simon Hill in pit lane this weekend, Team Canada's A1 driver, not racing himself, is James Hinchcliffe, and he's got news for us. James.
Yeah, well, tire strategy is always very important in qualifying. Essentially, the teams have 3 new sets to run in 4 different qualifying segments. Now, normally they'd go new, old, new, but because of the threat of rain at the end of this session, it looks like a lot of these top teams that I've been talking to are going to run all 3 new sets in the first 3 segments. So that's 2 for the sprint race and then 1 new set for the feature. So we're going to keep a close eye on who puts tires on and when.
Good stuff, James. Thank you. Yes, strategy changes with change in weather conditions and that possibility of rain coming in. They will be very alert to that. You're looking into Oliver Jarvis's pit, Team GBR. Neel, Jani now. We expect both of those to be fighting for front row starts, for possible pole positions for the 2 races. And I wonder how long it'll be before they send them out on circuit. The clock ticking away there in the top left-hand corner of the screen. Less than 9.5 minutes remain in this first segment.
You know, it's going to come down to a question of character, personality, and you have to look. We're looking into Enrico Toccacelo, Team Italy, not particularly, again, impressive this morning, down in 18th place, just 1 place ahead of Indonesia. But you have to look to people, Neel, Jani, Loïc, Duval, Oliver Jarvis. Don't forget Narain, Karthikeyan for India. He was 3rd quickest this morning. It's those that are accustomed to going out on that 1 lap burst. You've got to do it 4 times here, of course, but particularly in the first segment of qualifying, when people are going back, they're reacquainting themselves with this 5.5 kilometre circuit.
So here comes Ian Dyke for Team Australia, across the line to go on for his first flying lap of the afternoon. Best qualifying performance of the year so far, 14th. That was for the feature race in Brno last time out. So they're trying to get into the top 10. It's going to be tough, though, today to get into that top 10. We're looking at very, very close times, I think.
Well, our top 10 this weekend on Saturday was devoid of 2 of the normal runners. One was the Netherlands down in 13th. Surprise of most was New Zealand in 16th, but the reason for that was they had a major problem with the gearbox. They only got to run 4 or 5 laps this morning. So a lot of recovery work required from New Zealand, and for Jonny Reid, really this first segment of qualifying will be as much about finding out is his car now working correctly as it is trying to get a pole time.
Absolutely right. Well, Ian Dyke on his way on his flying lap here. Just a quick run through of the drivers for the teams. We saw him make just a little error there, but that won't have cost him too much time. Ian Dyke joined by Sérgio Jimenez for Brazil. We've got Robert Wickens making his race debut for Canada this weekend. We'll see more of him, I'm sure. Kong Fu Cheng, Frankie Cheng is driving for China. Erik Janis for the Czech Republic. Loïc Duval for France. Michael Ammermüller is making his debut for Team Germany here this weekend. Oliver Jarvis for Great Britain. Narain Karthikeyan for India. Sérgio Hermanto, as we've seen, for Indonesia. Adam Carroll for Ireland. Enrico Toccacelo for Italy. And Chris Alajajian for Lebanon. Alex Yoong, as we know, for Malaysia. Michel Jourdain for Mexico. Jeroen Bleekemolen for the Netherlands. Jonny Reid for New Zealand. Adam Khan for Pakistan. João Urbano for Portugal. Adrian Zaugg for South Africa. Neel, Jani for Switzerland. And Jonathan Summerton's return for Team USA. That'll be interesting. He went very well this morning. John, how's this lap of Ian Dyke's looking?
Well, it looks, I would say, average, but the car that currently is the fastest on the circuit is the Czech Republic. Young Erik Janis in that car, still willing to complete a lap as Ian Dyke comes up, and he does a 1:51.7, and that puts him, well, 0.8 of a second ahead of Indonesia, but Alan Jones' face, I think, summed it up. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not, Alan.
No, we're expecting them to be down into... Oh, Adam Khan had a spin. This was just a moment ago. He put a wheel over the edge. That's up at turn 4, and round he went.
Yes, and whether that was on his out lap or whether that was a flying lap, I suspect that was the beginning of his hot lap. It was, in fact, confirmed to be a hot lap for Adam Khan, so he is immediately on his back foot. Now, watch Jonathan Summerton for Team USA. This is a young man who's been out of an A1GP car for the first 2 rounds in Holland and in the Czech Republic. Came back in for the hot and steamy Malaysia circuit, and he says he's sweating a lot, but he's doing it with a lot of speed.
Yeah, but not a good run there. That's surprising. I thought he would go quicker. He's gone 4th of 4, which is very surprising.
It certainly is. Maybe there was a mistake we didn't see. Maybe they opted to do something entirely different to that we heard from James Hinchcliffe a minute ago. But Narain Karthikeyan, there's commitment.
Yeah, this could be good, couldn't it? The Indian was very fast this morning, 3rd quickest in morning practice. And he is pushing very hard. He's got a car up ahead of him on the backstretch here, but that might help him rather than hinder him. Not really close enough to get a tow. It is Pakistan.
Pakistan coming in.
Yeah, heading back into the pit. So it's just this final left-hand hairpin to deal with. No looking up. Flicks it in a little bit. A little bit of correction through on the apex of the corner. Should be a good lap. Will it be in the 149s? I don't think it will quite. Across the line he goes. He is fastest. It's a 150.700. Now, John, the times are not looking as quick as they were this morning.
No, they're not. And again, this is due to the duration of time the car's been off the track. There's been other local events taking place. A 150.7, to put that into perspective, if you had done that time this morning, you'd have only been 15th out of 22 cars. So I don't think the racetrack's necessarily slower. It's just that drivers have had this break. They're feeling the car again. They're coming to terms with the racetrack. Here we watch now Switzerland, Neel, Jani, the man that was the dominant driver nation in this morning's 1 hour practice session.
Yes, and not only that, he's taken pole position for each of the sprint races here held in the last 2 years. He's always topped qualifying here at Malaysia in the short history of A1GP, and he's pushing hard. You don't often see him run a little ragged, but that was just a slight little bit ragged out of turn 4. Not enough to lose time. Look at him. Oh, that's good. The car's really working through turns 5 and 6. Magic stuff from Neel Jani. He is on it.
Well, Neel Jani has got a car. He loves this racetrack. He loves the openness, the flow of the racetrack. Behind him, we've got Germany.
Yeah, and actually Michael Ammermüller for Germany is going just as quick, if not quicker, than Switzerland. And Michael Ammermüller's been very impressive. They had problems with the car when he first went out on Friday with an electrical trouble that just hampered him and couldn't allow him to put in many laps. But he's been fast since the car's been running right.
But currently it looks to me as it is Switzerland. They certainly have the fastest sector in Sector 1. They've also got New Zealand out. New Zealand and Germany. New Zealand is slightly slower, but there we see the 3 sector times respectively of those 3 nations that are about to, well, certainly hog the top 3 grid positions.
Well, it's looking good for Germany at the moment. This could be an amazing debut. New Zealand's crossed the line and has gone quickest on a 1:50.677, and Germany chasing Switzerland here. Neel Jani gets a little bit squirrely under braking, has to correct. That surely cost him a 100th or 2 through the hairpin. He's coming up to take the line. Surely this will be fastest time for Switzerland, but watch out for Germany. It's a 49.003 for Switzerland. And Germany, no, not a 49.976.
And that lap from Switzerland is the fastest single lap ever by an A1GP car around the Sepang circuit. He is 9/10 of a second ahead of Michael Ammermüller for Germany in second place.
Lebanon has just popped at 5th fastest time. What a great effort from Chris Alajajian. He's gone faster than Australia, Czech Republic, Indonesia, USA and Pakistan.
He is 5th, but he's actually a 10th of a second slower than he was this morning.
What's China here? Frankie Cheng, he's behind South Africa, but Cheng definitely on a hot lap, whereas, yeah, South Africa, I think, it is on a hot lap as well.
South Africa's on a hot lap, right, and we've got China on a hot lap, so it's going to be a little bit of who's going to take the road, who's going to give way. Well, nobody's going to give way because it's China trying to maximise as much as they can, but the fact that South Africa's going wide way. Well,
what's he doing there?
I don't know. He's trying to free the car up, but in doing so he lost time. China goes 5th on a 1:50.601, and I think he'll feel an Ireland also running wide. Coming out of turn 13, Adam Carroll.
People are trying a bit too hard here. There's no doubt that Adrian Zaugg for South Africa tried a bit too hard, and that's really going to hurt him. Now, we're yet to see a couple of quick cars put in their times, but it did look as though Adam Carroll, he's made a mistake. Look at the clock ticking away. Over 2 minutes. Forget this one for Ireland. It ain't going to happen.
Well, I don't know. Ireland, the disappointment. Look, you can see in the faces of the team on the pit wall, they didn't see what went wrong. Well, that's what went wrong. Adam Carroll got the car right off the racetrack, almost into the barriers. How he stayed off the barriers, well, that's a story he'll relay later to the team. But huge disappointment again for Ireland. What are they going to do? They put in a stunning young Irish driver, and even he's not getting the time. There, Czech Republic running behind Malaysia. What's this all about? Can they get? Yes, Alex Yoong stays out of the way.
Netherlands,
yes.
Yeah, Jeroen Bleekemolen who's managed to get past the Malaysian car. Malaysia's still on an outlap here, so that won't hurt Alex Yoong, and he's been very gentlemanly and let the Netherlands through. So they're about 6/10 down at the moment, the Netherlands, on the fastest outright time, so they're competitive for a top 3 here. By the way, Brazil's gone 3rd, Canada 4th, China 5th, and New Zealand currently 6th, but we're still waiting for Great Britain and France, 2 potential pole winners, to get their times in. Oh, 2nd place for Netherlands. Good effort.
Good run indeed to get ahead of Germany. That gap still to pull, or provisional pull as it stands right now, with 45 seconds remaining. As we watch now Adrian Zaugg for South Africa come down the back straight behind is Brazil. So Brazil have completed their time and wait for South Africa. Adrian Zaugg, who one might say, or certainly Frankie Cheng might say, did have an interference with his lap. But Zaugg ran wide coming out of this turn at the beginning of the lap. Has it harmed his lap time? I think it did by possibly a second.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's 5th fastest. He's 1.3 down from the provisional pole position. So South Africa needs to find some time, but it was definitely a little mistake. Now we're on board with Malaysia. Alex Yoong, desperate to get the Malaysian campaign up and running on home territory here, and he's going to be attacking. You can bet on that, but the first split is not great. He's a second down.
Well, they thought they'd find some time. They've certainly found consistency in the car. Going through turn 6, that's where he ran wide this morning. It's still Switzerland with that dominant 1 minute 49.003. We've got Malaysia out, France are out, Team GBR are out, and Portugal, the final 4 cars running to complete a lap, are on the circuit. The checkered flag has been waved, but they are allowed to finish their lap.
Interestingly though, none of them have done a quick first sector really, except for actually France has done a good first sector. They're only a 10th or so down on the outright fastest, but Great Britain half a second down. Watching Malaysia, got a car up ahead, got to be careful here.
And there's a bad part of the racetrack to catch, but pulls over to the left-hand side, and that in fact was the France car.
No, I think it was Netherlands actually. Yeah, it was Netherlands who he had let past the previous lap.
So France and the Netherlands.
Yeah, what goes around comes around. He was kind to the Netherlands last time, so Jeroen Bleekemolen returned the favour. Down towards the final corner then, and Malaysia, followed by France. This is going to be a fast lap by France. Netherlands has gone second, by the way. Their lap before that put them into 2nd place, but it could be under threat from France here. Let's just see what happens. Across the line they go, and it's France, yes, into 2nd place. Netherlands pushed back down to 3rd, only 69 thousandths behind. Great Britain only 9th. Now
well,
that is a surprise.
Is a disappointment. One has to assume that Team GBR has opted to run on a used set of tyres, unless we don't know whether there was traffic for Oliver Jarvis, or we don't know whether there was a mistake from Oliver Jarvis, but whatever it was, and that is that it?
Yeah.
It is indeed a mistake coming out of turn 8. It was turn 7 into 8 that caught him out this morning, and Oliver Jarvis gets it wrong in the exit of the corner, and that's where that time went. He is 1.6 seconds down on Team Switzerland. There's Tony Clements, who came here expecting to see his car potentially doing a top 3 time, finding themselves down in 9th place.
But look behind him, John, the same lap time, identically the same lap time as New Zealand. So yes. Jonny Reid hasn't performed in this one either.
I have to say that for Jonny Reid, of course, he didn't get to run this morning outside of 5 laps, had a technical problem. So in some respects, running in this segment of qualifying for the sprint race was about finding out where are we in relation to the rest of the field.
Well, that's a
Welcome back to the Sepang International Circuit. Malaysia, Switzerland finishing qualifying session 1 on top. Loïc Duval of France in 2nd. Jeroen Bleekemolen of the Netherlands in 3rd. Team GBR currently sitting in 9th spot. Well, session 2 of qualifying just about to get underway. John Watson and Ben Edwards will guide you through it.
The initial pressure of getting that first run out of the way, and if you're a driver like Neel, Jani for Switzerland, Loïc Duval for France, Jeroen Bleekemolen for the Netherlands, you're very confident now. You've had a good first run. You know you're going to be starting in the sharp end of the grid for the sprint race. But if you're a driver who made a mistake, we're talking about Adam Carroll, and Oliver Jarvis. Now you realize the pressure's really on. Only one more segment to get in a good time for the sprint race. Make sure the car's nice and balanced, because then there's still the feature race to qualify for. So you've got a bit of time to sit and think about it. It's a very stressful time for the guys who have not done as well as they'd like, and the guys that have done well, they're really confident, they're riding high, and they cannot wait to get back out there.
Thanks, James. And doesn't it seem to come round quickly? With this long lap, Jonny, it can be 2 minutes for a car after the checkered flag to finish a lap, then another over 2 minutes to get back in the pits, and suddenly the interval's over and we're into the next segment.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting looking at some of the cars. They're barely being pushed back into their garages, and suddenly it's green flag for the start of the second segment. So people such as Indonesia, who went out early, they're sitting there very comfortably. It's Adam Khan for Pakistan who's opted to come out first, and understandably Adam made a mistake on his flying lap. He lost it on the exit of turn 4, just round the curb, and too much throttle. So he ended up slowest of the 22 field. Ireland 21st. Adam Carroll went off on the exit of turn 13. So two drivers have got to do a lot to redeem themselves with their teams for this sprint race.
Great stuff. It is exciting. And there's another one with a surprisingly slower performance than expected. It is Team New Zealand. There with Great Britain, the two of them 9th and 10th potentially on the grid. Team India heading down the pits and put in an early time, and he's going out early again, which is interesting. Only 11th so far. And I tell you what, good effort from Chris Alajajian behind in 12th place for Lebanon. That really is an outstanding effort by the young man who's only raced the A1GP car once at Zandvoort.
He got out on track, clear lap, seized his opportunity and has benefited from it as we watch India go back out. Just looking at the India tyres, I wasn't sure that those were not the tyres that he just completed his run on. As James Inchcliffe from the pit lane pointed out to us, most teams are going to opt to go new, and then the best of the rest for the final qualifying segment. I just wonder whether that's the case of India. Maybe they feel that there's still enough life in that tyre. We've certainly seen the tyres perform superbly, that even on laps 20 we saw Jarvis on Friday do the fastest lap, and then the tyres that were used in Switzerland, who'd done more than 20 laps, were the tyres that gave him that single fastest lap this morning.
Team Germany with their new driver on board, that is Michel Ammermüller. He's very experienced at the sort of levels around this level of motorsport, fast, powerful single-seaters, but he's had a bit of a tough season. He broke his wrist right at the start of the season. That put him out of action for a while. Came back in, didn't really get the momentum going in his season, didn't really get the results that maybe some people expected. Now he's got a big opportunity, and I tell you what, he's grabbed it with both hands, currently 4th quickest.
And I think quite rightly too, because I think that there is a possibility, and I only say that just purely judging it by myself, that Michel Ammermüller can do a strong job, especially when it comes to racing, and that's maybe where a little bit of Christian Venturo's vulnerability has come from. He's not maybe had the best of the events that he's been in terms of race performance. If he can deliver strongly for Germany, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Michel Ammermüller may end up being in that car on a more regular basis.
Now, can Narain Karthikeyan see what he can do in qualifying here? His best qualifying performance so far this year has been 9th on the grid. He was 5th on the grid at a couple of events towards the end of last season, both Shanghai and Brands Hatch. He wants a top 3 though, if at all possible. He's outside the top 10 on that first run. You can bet he's going to be trying hard.
But he was trying hard on the exit of turn 2 as he ran out to the edge of the track. You could hear the wheels catching the curb and just a slightest bit of wheel spin. So up into turn 4. Easy to run, shoot even the corner and miss the apex. It's a corner that's very simple, straightforward corner. So therefore keep it simple. Don't try and be too tricky. Here's where you can make up the time, and that time will be made up if you've had a good exit out of turn 4.
There's just a little feather of the throttle in between the two corners, 5 and 6. Now he's flat out, of course, hard on the brakes here. 4th gear.
He locked it up too. That inside wheel, just you saw a whiff of smoke on that right front.
Still in 4th, up to 5th, briefly down here. Not quite long enough straight to be in 6th for very long. And he's back down the gears into 1st gear for this left-hander at turn 9.
He certainly does clatter it down the gearbox, doesn't he? I mean, you can really sense that Narain Karthikeyan has got two methods of braking a car. One is by using the brake itself, and the other is just whacking it down. And remember, paddle shift gear changes, just keep pulling it until you get the gear you select. I don't know why he's using 1st gear. Most people appear to be using 2nd.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit of a lift going into that fast left-right. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be flat through there or not. And he's a bit of a slide on the exit there. Not as much of a slide as Adam Carroll had for Team Ireland in that first segment of qualifying. This is still looking like pretty good lap. Pakistan's just gone through, by the way, and has improved their time quite considerably, obviously, after that mishap earlier. Lock up on the inside there for Team India, but he still managed to make the apex. That was the crucial thing. That actually won't have cost him too much time. Across the line he goes, and he goes 5th quickest, a 1:50.2, half a second better than his previous lap.
Yes, I think he'll be pretty pleased with that lap. So let's look again as he comes into turn 13 and gets the car in. One of those corners, you approach turn 13, it's a long approach there, the back of the car, and again you shave off the tenths, maybe the thousandths of seconds by just being a little bit too greedy. And again, further in the lap, earlier in the lap, that was going into turn 7 where he just caught the front wheel, then released the brake and had a pretty good exit. So if you take out all those little errors that Narain Karthikeyan let creep into his lap, you maybe could have taken a couple or three. He could have done maybe a 49.9.
Yeah, he could well have done, but as it is, it's a 1:50.2, 5th quickest currently. It's still Switzerland on top from their earlier time. Second place France, only 69 thousandths of a second behind. Then the Netherlands, Germany, and now India. Brazil next up, then South Africa, Canada, China, and Great Britain and New Zealand. Now, back out comes Team Ireland. Mistake made by Adam Carroll on the first attempt. This is where you prove your mettle, to see whether he can pick up the pieces after what's been a difficult weekend so far and suddenly surprise everybody.
Well, he's suffered physically. He's had a head cold and congestion in his sinuses, so that's been a very uncomfortable course in a very warm climate. The humidity very high, and also he had a difficulty with seats. They had in Brno he had a problem with the seat, then he made a new seat for here, and then that didn't work, so I had to do it again last night, and it's just been on and on and on. And what Ireland are hoping for is the true potential of Adam Carroll, who we know is a winner in Formula 3, a winner in GP2, to become a winner for Ireland in A1GP. And whether it'll happen here this weekend, well, certainly in terms of racing skill and ability, Adam Carroll has a lot of people here beaten.
Right up to the end of the long start-finish straight, we're riding with Satrio Hermanto for Team Indonesia, and he's on to his second flying lap of the afternoon. Again, he's quite a tidy driver. He doesn't look as though he's overawed by the power of the A1GP car, despite it being the most powerful thing he's raced up to date.
Well, if you saw him walking around the paddock, you think he was a student. You'd never thought in your wildest dreams that driver or that man is a racing driver. He's got that sort of very sort of studious, clerical look about him. But in the car, his driving reflects a lot of his personality. He's neat, tidy, and probably quite fastidious about it as well. Ultimately, whether the pace is there or not, it'll only be a matter of time. But you have to say experience also counts for a great deal. And for the moment, Satrio Hermanto probably is going to go out and try and consolidate the position that he is in 19th. If he can take another half a second off that, well, it's not going to bring him up too far, bring him up to about 16th or 17th.
British driver Danny Watts on the pit wall has been doing some coaching with Satrio Hermanto, helping him to get up to speed in the A1 car. I'm sure his advice has been extremely useful.
Well, Danny Watts has been driving an A1GP car recently. He's been doing some driving with these ethical fuels to try to get some mileage on one of those units. In the meantime, he's been winning a Porsche Super Cup race in Macau, and then just drops in here to help the Indonesian team.
Yeah, 2 seconds down on that second split, but that could still see him improve from where he is at the moment. He's currently 19th, 3.6 seconds behind the fastest of the day set by Switzerland. So this is an improvement from Indonesia, but whether it'll ultimately bring him any gain, we'll have to wait and see. Again, he's got it tidy into the final corner.
Yes, I mean, there's no heavy loads going into the car at any point around the lap. You know, in itself, it's not going to give you a bad lap time. It's a small improvement. It's a 1:51.6. In fact, it's quite a good improvement. It's actually the best part of a second, bar 0.003 of a second. So I think Hermanto could be well happy with what he's just achieved.
And there was just a moment there when he ran a touch wide, but that really wasn't it. He kept it straight, didn't overreact, and that was exactly the right thing to do. So he's faster than Pakistan. We know that already because Adam Khan has completed his lap. Now, what's Ireland up to? This is Adam Carroll desperate to make up for that little mistake he made earlier, and he's coming back down to that area of track.
Well, he's showing that currently he's the fastest car of all that have been out. There have been 5 cars out on flying laps, so he currently quickest through that first sector. So drops down now out of turn 10 all the way downhill. And Adam Carroll, having not made a mistake as he did coming out of turn 13 a few moments ago, now comes into this final turn. Keeps it reasonable. Still the car moves around a bit. He seems to be comfortable with that. He doesn't mind it. Good exit, clean exit, good drive out. So this is certainly going to put Adam Carroll back at the races.
Let's see where it puts him. Up the order to 4th. Oh, that's good stuff. And he's in the 49s. 1 minute 49.915. He dragged that one out from somewhere, and that's what the Irish team were hoping for. After
Australia in Dyke has gone 4th, eclipsing out on 1:49.898.
That's That's impressive. The track surely is getting quicker and quicker. The support races that were out earlier on perhaps left a little sheen of slipperiness on the surface for that first qualifying segment. Now we're beginning to see some rapid times, more like what we really expected to see after their running this morning. And New Zealand now is going to be a threat as well.
And it's now Johnny Reid for New Zealand. They've got the fastest sector time in Sector 1. And Johnny Reid, who really lost out so badly this morning with the gearbox problem he had, that first run in that first segment of qualifying really was more a sighting lap for the New Zealand team and Johnny Reid. Now he knows what the circuit's like. If he needed to make a change, he could do so in the 5 minutes that he was back on track. Car looks stuck to the ground through turns 12 and into 13.
He's going well, but it's not quite fast enough. 1.177 of a second down on the pace set by Switzerland. Nonetheless, this is going to move the series leaders back up somewhere near the front. They need consistency this year if they're going to win this title. But they've got a lot of opposition from all other 21 nations here, and particularly the likes of Switzerland, France, the Netherlands, Great Britain, all very close in the championship. Out in the final corner he comes. Where is this going to put the Black Beauty on the grid for the sprint race? Across he goes third quickest for the moment. That's good, but they've got to wait and see what everybody else does.
Well, third place, second row of the grid currently, but we've got still to see what the Netherlands can do. We've got to see what Germany's going to do. Brazil, South Africa, well, there we look at Germany right now, but principally we've got to worry about Team Great Britain. They've got the capacity to do so.
And France is on a demon lap as well at the moment. They've just set a fastest first segment time. So we're going to see some more changes here, and France is going to challenge for pole. But what about Germany with new man Michael Ammermüller? Looks good there.
Looks very good, confident. Car looks like it's working very well. Sister car to the New Zealand car in terms of share of information. Michael Ammermüller in an A1GP car for the first time now on the home run up into turn 14. Just don't be too ambitious about your braking. Get the car settled and then get a good run to the flag.
But look at the times that France setting behind. The purple is good, and France is up by 0.2 of a second on the splits. Here comes Germany. Germany challenging for a front row starting position. Across the line goes Germany, goes third, pushes New Zealand back, but it's France that's surely going to take a new pole unless Loïc Duval makes a mistake here into the final corner.
Looks good again. Look how late he's braking the car, moving around under braking, but he gets the speed off the car, gets it into the corner. Excellent drive off the corner. That's how you want to come out of turn 14, and you get the thrust. Is it going to be 47?
Across the line, he takes pole position. France into the 48s, and a fantastic lap by Loïc Duval.
Well, that has sent another benchmark every session throughout the weekend. We've had benchmarks being set. Brazil comes across the start line. They go to fifth. Great run for Sérgio Jimenez, 14 Brazil.
And USA just behind, up into sixth place for Jonathan Summerton on his return to A1GP. China has just gone ahead of USA into sixth place for China now. Still some changes coming through, and there are one or two more to go. Switzerland have been pushed back to second by France, so Neel Jani will have to come back out. Canada's gone fourth. The new boy, Robert Wickens, has gone fourth.
And if you had seen what he had for his lunch, you wouldn't have believed you could go fourth quickest.
That is fantastic. Look at it. There's the Canadian car. James will be jumping up and down in the pit lane. What a performance by Robert Wickens. He has gone fourth for his first ever A1GP race, but there's a few more to go.
That was a great run for Rob Wickens, I tell you, because I talked to him at lunchtime, and I don't know if he thought he had a fourth place provisionally, because we've still got Switzerland, well, they're ahead. The danger men will be the Netherlands, South Africa and Great Britain.
Well, there's still a few, as you say, John. Portugal out there not really looking so competitive, so I don't think they're going to do anything special. The Netherlands on a good lap, on a hot lap. I don't know whether it's a good one. They've only just gone on to it. So if we watch here, we might see whether Jeroen Bleekemolen's going to challenge once again. Remember, third fastest after the first segment was completed. With all the improvements, he's been pushed down to ninth, so he's got to find something here.
So this second segment certainly looking to be the quicker of the two. The first one clearly just for drivers. They have to try hard, but they knew that the second one was going to be the one where they could get the job done. Comes out of turn 4 now, climbs uphill, then into this turn 5, hugs the curve all the way around. Then you've got to get straighten the car up to turn 6.
Well, first sector, no, not enough. Half a second down. It's a green, it's not a purple. You look for the purple. That means that somebody's up on the times that have been set so far. This is on board with Great Britain. And wait to see what the segment time is. Absolutely. That gives us the first segment, but the overall, compared to Switzerland, is what matters as well. No, he's 2/10 down.
Yeah.
So he is going to move up here, Great Britain. Remember, he's been pushed well down. He's in 16th at the moment.
Switzerland's 15 thousandths of a second down.
So it looks as though France might hold on to pole here, but Neel Jani's going to give it his all for Switzerland. Great Britain also going for it. Oliver Jarvis on the back of
7/10 down for the Netherlands.
Yeah, Oliver Jarvis on the back of that tremendous success at Macau last weekend in the Formula 3 event of the year, if you like. He took victory there. Now he's got to readapt to an A1GP car. Couldn't really be more of a contrast. A1GP car on one of the widest circuits that the cars come to throughout the entire season. He's still going well. 2/10 down at the moment. It could be enough for a second row starting position.
Well, look at Switzerland coming into turn 13. So we've got Neel Jani for Switzerland, Oliver Jarvis for Team GBR. Good exit. Jarvis just ahead on the lap, ahead of Switzerland. So it's going to be GBR come across start-finish line before Switzerland. Currently down. Team GBR currently down. And I'm looking to see where they're currently down.
End to the session, and let's just tell you, Switzerland have grabbed back that pole position, a 48.6. Neel Jani stunning at the end of that lap. Switzerland on pole for the sprint race, and that is a hat-trick of poles here in Malaysia. France second, Great Britain dragged themselves up from the lower end of the grid. They're in third place. Germany, a superb debut by Michael Ammermüller, and another superb debut by Robert Wickens for Team Canada. And New Zealand, the series leaders, are going to have to settle for sixth, and their nearest rivals in the series, South Africa, well, they're down in eighth place behind Brazil. What a turnaround of form here, and it's an absolutely brilliant grid that we're going to be looking forward to in that sprint race. John, some standout performances there from both Germany and Canada.
I think the two new boys, I mean, we've seen Rob Wickens in a rookie session, but to be the principal driver for Canada and to put himself on the third row, fifth position. Michael Ammermüller for Germany, he's come here to try and seal a drive for A1GP for Germany for the rest of the series, in fourth on the second row of the grid. Two outstanding drives from two, in relative terms, newcomers to A1GP. But
Welcome back to Sepang. A hat-trick of poles now at Sepang for the Swiss driver Neel Jani. France and Loïc Duval back in the car line up in second for the sprint race tomorrow. And GBR will start in third. Session 3 of qualifying from Malaysia just about to get going. Remember that under the new rule changes, the fastest lap time of session 3 and 4 will determine the feature race grid. Over to John Watson and Ben Edwards for more.
Concentration, the sprint race grid is sorted, but now, John, they've got to think about the feature race grid.
yes, I mean, you come in and you sit down, you saw Neel Jani just looking at a little handheld screen there, just thinking, well, I've done this, and I've got to go out and start thinking about doing it all over again, not just once but twice, because we've got two more qualifying segments coming up. These are for the feature race. This is one of the major changes between the first two series and the third series. So you've got standalone qualifying for both sprint and feature. And for the sprint race, well, it's been dominated by Neel Jani for Switzerland, along with France and GBR and Germany on the second row. It could be a football match the way these teams are lined up.
Indeed it could, but it's proving to be so close. Jarvis's car being pushed down the pit lane.
He had to go in for mandatory random scrutineering. You know, the last thing you want to do is you come in, you've only got 5 minutes between the flag falling and the track being opened, and that could take 3 or 4 minutes, and those minutes are precious moments. You want to get your car straight back in the garage. If you want to make a change, now you're slightly compromised in the time that you've got available to make those changes, or certainly initially discuss them and then make them.
Let's get down to the pits, and Simon's got some news for us. Simon.
Had a quick chat with Paul Bellringer, who's team manager at Team GBR, just to ask where that time came from. Obviously a little bit of a disappointing time for Oliver in the first session after the form that he showed on Friday, and he said, well, quite simply, we told him to get his finger out. he obliged, but also they made a couple of changes, and they're reasonably confident that they're going to be able to improve even more in qualifying for the next run.
Thanks very much, Simon. Simon Hill, Lee Mackenzie, and of course James Hinchcliffe in the pits with us today. And it was interesting as they were pushing down. I noticed James had his head in the cockpit there, chatting away to Oliver. And I'm going to throw back to you, James. What on earth were you saying to Ollie then as they were pushing the car down?
Well, I just wanted to get Oliver's reaction from the helmet. He's pretty disappointed with himself in that first run. He did manage to pull it out a little bit in the second run, but again, he's just so shocked at how quick Neel Jani is in that first sector. He's losing a little over 2/10 to him there. He knows he needs to really pick it up, so that's what he's working on. They're going to work on the car a little bit, but more importantly, Oliver thinks that they're going to find this time within himself. So he's really pushing from inside the cockpit. Very difficult situation for him, but this is the kind of situation that he loves.
Great, thanks James, and certainly he's an honest driver about his own performance. John, now if it's the first sector of the lap, where is he going to have to try and find the time? Which corners do you think are crucial there?
Well, to me, the corners that you can lose time in most easily are the slow corners. If you try to overdrive them and the car moves around too much. So going into turn 1, it's a very long corner there. We see Pakistan going through it, and then this little sprint, then the dive down, and it's much more acute than it is. You see when you walk it, then you see it on screen. Through here, this is all flat out. This is nothing gained, nothing lost. Going uphill there into turn 4, if you overbrake or you overdrive the car, you can shave a tenth or two off a time. So really it comes down to the tenths of seconds all around the racetrack, and I mean 2/10 of a second in one segment might not seem a great deal of time, but if you're the person that's down 2/10, it might as well be 2 seconds, and how you find it without making a significant change to your driving style or approach to that segment is something that only you can work out. You'll feel it in the car, you'll feel it through the tyres, and that's really where the message will come from.
Now these guys have got some work to do. What is happening here? They've got to think about this a little bit. Adrian Zaugg doesn't seem to have got himself dialed in just yet into this circuit. And of course Team France, Team Switzerland are right up front, and yet Team South Africa, who certainly share information with France, not quite as well up. He's in the top 10, but he'll be hoping for more for this feature race.
I mean, it's basically throughout the weekend, of the 3 cars that share information, the South Africa car has been the one that looked the more recalcitrant, hasn't been as generous to Adrian Zaugg as the France or the Switzerland car have been to their respective drivers. Now, every driver's got a different style, different approach to driving. Some want a car that turns in the nose, some want a car that's got a lot more stability in the rear of the car. You work within a sort of certain number of parameters, but 3 cars may well have the fundamentals, but not the actual, they're not facsimiles of each other.
Absolutely, they've got to find their own way of doing it, and each driver, of course, slightly different, so style comes into it. We're watching the Indonesian car once again, Satya Hermanto, who put in a respectable performance in those first 2 sessions. Now let's see what he can do in terms of qualifying for the feature race. You've got to forget the sprint race now. That is done and dusted. You cannot change that now. It's sorted. All you can do as a driver is focus on driving well and get a good grid position for the long feature race, which also involves pit stops. You could argue, perhaps, John, that qualifying isn't quite so critical in the feature race, but at the end of the day, in evenly matched cars, it's still just as important.
I can assure you, starting at the front of a grid is a makes your race an awful lot easier because you've got fewer compromises to consider, and it also gives you the opportunity to pick and choose when you may want to make a pit stop, rather than if you're battling to get through a field, you're having to take that into consideration when you make your choice of what time should I come in for my mandatory first and then mandatory second pit stop.
So in a representative time of 1:51.335, but as we know, we're looking at the 1 minute 48 as being the pace. Now, what low 1 minute 48, thanks to Neel Jani's efforts just a little while ago, and the track conditions won't have changed very much. Looking out of our commentary box window, which is right opposite race control, opposite the pits as well, we can look out and see it's a bit cloudy, but it certainly doesn't look as though any of the monsoon-style rain is heading in our direction.
No, I think we're probably going to get away with it. The only concern that you have is traditional here. Sepang going a bit of a bobble of coming out through turn 13 for Adam Khan. The car not really giving Adam Khan the kind of ride that he would like. But it is known that you get little sort of local weather hot spots or cold spots, in the case maybe with the rain. It'll be dry in one part, wet in another part, and that's caught out many a driver over many years.
Yes, indeed. I don't think this is going to be a particularly quick lap from Adam. He's made a couple of mistakes on it. Let's just see. Is it quicker than Indonesia? No, it's not. He goes second to Indonesia. There's Andy Miller, familiar face in unfamiliar colours. He has come in as race engineer for the weekend and working with Adam Khan for, I think, this race and the next one at Jourdain, leading up towards Christmas. Good to have Andy back on the engineering strength at A1GP, but it's not quite working for them two together at Pakistan.
I think it's going to take more than just one weekend. New people coming together, learning about each other, understanding one another, knowing what, particularly when you've got a young driver who's not been racing last year, has been involved in the studies at university, missing out seat time, and right now A1GP is at its most competitive. We're seeing drivers really extending these cars in a way we've never seen previously. And Series 3 we knew was going to be competitive, and that's been the case both in Holland, in the Czech Republic, and now here in Malaysia.
But what is going on for Team Malaysia? They just cannot seem to get themselves up where they should be on the grid, where we've seen them so many times in the past. Their performance has not been strong at all. I mean, only just inside the top 20 in qualifying for that sprint race. That really is a bit of a shock to the system. They ended up last season pretty competitive. Remember, they were on pole position in Mexico. They had a victory there as well. They were 6th on the grid at Brands Hatch, 8th on the grid the previous race at Shanghai. But this year, things have not come together. Now, here's a man who did turn things around. Ian Dyke for Australia. He goes on to his hot lap. I'm sure he would have had a confidence boost from his last run.
He would have done, but of course he couldn't get into the top 10, and that's where he would like to be.
Two cars coming out at the same time. Lebanon tucks in behind, that's okay. And I think it was New Zealand ahead.
Yeah, just ahead. The Black Beauty just going out ahead. And for Johnny Reid, 6th quickest in that second segment. So starting back in the third row of the grid in the sprint race. We know that that New Zealand car is fundamentally a very, very good car. We know that Johnny Reid is a 2-time winner back in the Czech Republic. We know that he's capable of dragging a performance out. He's going to have to do so. But he started from the back foot at the start of that qualifying segment for the sprint series. They were in the pits virtually. Ian Dyke flirting with the outside of turn 5, and again then the compromise sets in immediately because the position of the car for turn 6 was all wrong.
Yeah, he got off the grippiest line as well, and once you're off that, then you can be in big trouble. He managed to sort of hold it, but that will not help him set a fast lap time here at all, and it's going to be a tricky one. Well, he may have to write this one off perhaps and concentrate on the final segment.
I just wonder, is he knows he's got New Zealand ahead of him, he knows that New Zealand's on an out lap, but I wonder is he maybe trying to match the pace of the New Zealand car, which would be a naturally faster one than that of Team Australia, and just in the case of going through turn 5, focused more on what was ahead than what he himself might have been doing.
Interesting to see Switzerland out a little earlier, I would say, in this session than they were in the previous, or certainly in the last one where they took pole position for the sprint race. Switzerland have decided to go out a bit earlier, so have France, interestingly. Germany also out on track, but they're all building up to their hot laps at the moment.
Well, maybe there is something in the air that we don't feel in the commentary booth that those in the pit lane are concerned about.
Possibly.
So, I mean, while the crowd is high and there's no indication that it might rain, everybody's decided. I mean, the bulk of the field, 2/3 of the field have either completed a lap or have gone out, and like 9 cars have all up and go out around the same time. That's not good for single laps.
Fast is now for Australia, but the lap time isn't really enough, I don't think, at this stage for them to be top 10 with that 150.9. They would have wanted a little more than that, I think.
Oh, I think so. I mean, that is what's over 2 seconds away from the time that Jani for Switzerland achieved qualifying for the sprint race. In 2 seconds, there's an awful lot of cars can fill the gap between where Switzerland were and 2 seconds.
Now, what about New Zealand? Surprising to see him potentially, well, he is going to be on the 3rd row for the sprint race. Can he move up a little bit? He was on the front row here last year, so Johnny Reid needs to find a bit of pace. Looking good at the moment.
Yeah, we've got China ahead, and one would expect the New Zealand car to run down China. Frankie Cheng's been very strong in fairness to China, but you don't really want a car as close as this when you're trying to focus and achieve the maximum from your own car.
China on an out lap, so it could hurt New Zealand this. Yeah, is he going to get out of the way? He does. And Johnny Reid does slip through, but that might just have cost him a few thousandths of a second having to deal with that situation. Looks good there. Now he's got the fast flick, the left, right. That looks pretty committed to me.
I mean, the car looks very good indeed, and what a shame that New Zealand had to spend so much time in the garage this morning. Johnny Reid, and he uses the car so nicely. He drives the car in a lovely, fluid manner. Doesn't overwork the car, but maxes out on all its potential.
Certainly of the people on who set a lap or who are on a lap, he's the fastest, but we're waiting to see what some of the others can do behind. And Germany's actually gone slightly quicker in the first sector of this lap. So here comes New Zealand then, their first run in feature race qualifying. Across the line, he goes quickest for now. It's a 1:49.6, but again, he's some way off the time set by Switzerland earlier on in sprint race qualifying.
Again, 3 new sets of tyres, and then you've got to use the best of the rest. Here we see Michael Ammermüller for Germany. He had that fastest sector time in sector 1. That's now been eclipsed by Brazil. Sérgio Jimenez for Brazil has gone fastest in sector 1, and by a substantial margin.
New Zealand currently quickest, Lebanon currently second, and Australia third, but only 5 cars, only 5 nations have set a time so far. And be interesting to know if they are going for the new tyres in this third segment of qualifying.
I'm not convinced that everybody has done so, because Brazil is still quickest in that first segment. We've had France go through a tenth of a second down, Ireland over a second down. So it's probable that many of the teams have opted to run the tyres they ran in that second segment here in the third.
Here comes Germany. Is it enough to go fastest? Yes, it is. A 1:49.293. It's another good lap from Michel Ammermüller, but behind him is still France and Switzerland about to come across the line. USA's just gone third quickest. Here comes the Swiss car. Can Neel, Jani do it again? Take pole for not just the sprint race but the feature race across the line. Yep, he's fastest for now. A 1:48.425. Brilliant.
By 8/10 of a second, way ahead of the entire field. Brazil end up in fifth. They had a strong run in that first segment, but they lost it throughout the rest of the lap.
Here comes France. Now, what's France going to do? France goes second. Oh, it's close still between Switzerland and France, but he just can't quite beat Neel Jani here. Loïc Duval's done his best on that one, but Neel Jani for Team Switzerland holds it. India has gone fifth quickest now. India fifth fastest, just ahead of USA and Brazil, with Portugal in 8th place, Lebanon 9th, Ireland up to 3rd, and that's a 49.2.
Well, I tell you what, there'll be a big sigh of relief in the Ireland pit if Ireland can retain somewhere in the top 6. Remember, we've only had 15 of the nations out. We've still got to see Canada, Team GBR and South Africa. Those are going to be the danger teams to Ireland, but if they can get on to the third row of the grid, at least they're somewhere near where they felt they ought to have been when they came here.
So another couple of cars go on to their hot laps. Mexico, the Netherlands, the Czech Republic and Canada. Keep an eye on Canada after Robert Wickens' impressive 5th place on the grid for the sprint race. There he is. This could be another quick lap from the youngster. Very green, if you like, in A1GP terms. He's only done the rookie session before this, and that was at the Czech Republic. This is his first ever qualifying run in an A1GP car. There's Jeroen Bleekemolen, though, up ahead of him, who took pole last time out in a feature race. That was at Brno, of course. And now he wants to see if he can dial the car in and get another pole here at Sepang.
Seems that the car set up the back moves around a lot. Some other the cars coming out of turn 4, you don't see that slide under power that you're getting from the Netherlands car. Again, that goes back to the individuality of the driver, his particular preference and how he likes the car to respond to the steering wheel and to the throttle.
Good first segment by Canada. Canada definitely are going to be threatening, maybe not for pole, but certainly for a first couple of row start here. And once again, Robert Wickens must have had a boost of confidence with that tremendous performance in the sprint race qualifying. Look at him sliding the car.
You have to think that some of the teams are just getting a glimpse of that, and maybe thinking about the Netherlands as well, that they're using the set of tyres, they're using the second segment. That's why we're seeing a little bit more movement. The tyre may not have that freshness that a brand new set of tyres would bring, particularly at the levels we're at now. I mean, anything that's under 1 minute 50 is a hot lap, but down into the middle 1:48 where Switzerland are, and just above the middle where France is really on the edge as far as we can see.
So the Netherlands will be the first of this group to complete the lap, but Canada is quickest of this group at the moment. But Great Britain on track as well, going pretty well. We'll wait to see what happens there. Malaysia put in a better first lap than before. Across the line, so Netherlands goes into 7th place. Let's wait and see where Canada goes into 6th. Not quite as strong as I thought it might have been. There's John Booth keeping an eye on things. Great Britain on track. Oliver Jarvis, he managed to scrape himself up into 3rd place in that first couple of segments for sprint grid. But now what's he going to do? And remember, he may not be on his best tyres here. They may all be saving their best tyres till last. He's gone 5th. So it's Switzerland, France, Ireland, Germany, then Great Britain and New Zealand.
Thought Great Britain might have just sneaked that 4th place from Germany, but no, South Africa. They pop in to 7th, and there's only one car out on track, and this is the car of Malaysia. Yoong still struggling. Let's see what Malaysia can do.
This is better than I think the sprint race. Let's see where it goes. Oh no, he lost a lot in the last sector. He is 15th, so disappointment again for the Malaysian team. It's Switzerland fastest once more. They've just got to hold on for one more qualifying segment and they'll take the double pole here at Malaysia. France a 2nd, Ireland in a superb 3rd, Germany 4th, Great Britain are 5th, then New Zealand, South Africa, Canada in 8th, China in 9th place, and then it's the Netherlands in 10th ahead of India, the United States, Brazil are up there, and then the Czech Republic, Malaysia are further down than they would have liked, that's for sure. Then it's Portugal, Lebanon, Italy, Mexico, Australia, Indonesia and Pakistan. Riding on board with Oliver Jarvis as he makes his way back towards the pits, and there's Neel Jani scanning those times again, and what he's looking at is not just the overall positions but the sector times. He wants to see who had the fastest sector at each of the 3 splits around the lap. I should think pretty much it's him, because he had a 3/10, nearly 4/10 advantage there over Team France.
Yeah, so whatever Switzerland have done, and the combination of Neel, Jani's enjoyment of racing here in Malaysia, it really is turning into a maestro performance. And France again shadowing Switzerland throughout, but the gap 3/8 per second.
Confirmation of that is Switzerland-France on the provisional front row for the feature race, then Ireland and Germany, Great Britain and New Zealand, with the South Africa and Canadian cars behind. Then it's China and the Netherlands, India and the United States, potentially starting in 12th place. Behind them, Brazil and the Czech Republic, followed by Malaysia and Portugal, Lebanon ahead of Italy, Mexico, then Australia, Indonesia and Pakistan. One more session to go here at Sepang, and that will determine the grid for the feature race. Let's get a bit more news. Down in pit lane, it's Simon Hill.
Well, the majority of the top teams seem to go out on used rubber and tyres that they had used in one of the first 2 segments. The obvious, the notable exceptions of the cars that I saw were India and Team Ireland were definitely on new tyres, as I believe were also Team Mexico. And you would have to look at the time that Neel Jani set and wonder if that was a set of new tyres as well. That could be really significant, because Team GBR and Team Netherlands both look very, very confident about their final run on their new tyres they have left. Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, well, Team Switzerland do still have a set of new tyres left, as do Team France. There's tremendous rivalry up here between these 2 teams, who are in next-door garages to each other. There's plenty of heads popping around each other's walls to find out exactly what's going on. Also, Team Canada have a new set of tyres. Team Ireland did do that run on their final set of new, so they'll be doing this session on old. Back to you, Ben.
Thanks very much, Lee. Good information there. And that means that Team Ireland's at 3rd place could come under threat in this one, John.
Yes, there's no doubt it's going to be certainly challenged. But the strength that we're seeing from France and from Switzerland, also Team GBR are going to be in the mix, is going to be an interesting. Ireland could, if they have a lucky break, they could certainly end up on the 3rd row of the grid in 6th place. But you've still got New Zealand and well, South Africa, Canada, hard to judge where they will be. It's going to be very, very close.
China's Cheng, Frankie as he's known, looking a little bit thoughtful, a little bit pensive before this final segment of qualifying. He's down in 9th place at the moment, knows he has to find a bit, but if he has got tyres available, there's every chance to move up.
Yes, talking to Mark Hines, who is giving a little bit of assistance to Frankie Cheng. Qualifying is the area that they're trying to get Frankie to focus on, and trying to realise that the car will be with you. He's a superb race driver. We saw a wonderful race from him in Brno in the Czech Republic. It's that confidence, getting into the car, going out, and you're out lap, and then nailing that car for that one explosive lap. And that's a skill that some drivers have. It comes from experience as well.
Right, the hooter sounds the final segment of qualifying to get underway here. Nobody's rushing out onto the circuit. Team Lebanon are under investigation for some misdemeanor, maybe a minor one, might have been speeding in pit lane, could have been anything really, we'll find out later. There is Chris Alajajian. I think he's doing very well at the moment. 17th potentially on the grid for the feature race. And of course Lebanon yet to score any points in A1GP World Cup of Motorsport, despite being one of the stalwarts of the series.
Indeed, and it's getting tougher. I mean, the best time to score points in any championship, any series, is at the instigation of that. But as it becomes more and more refined, and the cream of the crop tends to come to the top, and that's what we're seeing. So a lot of work for Indonesia. But with Chris Alajajian in the car, they've got a driver who potentially could see them, finish in the top 10 at some point, and that would be a great result.
It would. It would be wonderful. There'd be some big celebrations if he could achieve that. And he's certainly developing well. I think shows a lot of promise. So it looks like Indonesia have saved their new tyres. Those are looking pretty good as he heads down the pit lane. And Satrio Hermanto, he's last but one at the moment. He's ahead of Pakistan. It's a nice little battle going on between those 2 nations, actually. They're very close on times. There's 3/10, is it, of a second between them?
Yeah, and they're also playing cricket, by the way, at the same time. So they haven't seemed to, they can't separate themselves.
Absolutely. There's looking down to the Lebanese car. We've got a bit more news on Lebanon, though, with Simon Hill. Simon, what can you tell us?
Well, I just had a word with Khalil Bashir, the other of the Team Lebanon drivers. He said that when the car came in and was weighed at the end of that session, apparently it was around about 3 kilos underweight, which is why they've been investigated to look into that one further.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of an awkward one to explain, perhaps.
It is a bit of a fundamental no-no, but of course just simply maybe a little bit less fuel than they would normally use. that's all it takes. But of course, I would imagine that the time that Lebanon established will be deleted, so that 17th place most likely will not stand. So it'll have to be done all over again in this final qualifying segment.
Well, they've still got the chance to do that, of course, but it means they'll only have the one lap to rely on. Neel Jani looking for the double here, looking to become a driver with a 100% qualifying record at Sepang. He's taken pole from qualifying on each of the previous occasions we've been here, and went on to take one win in those 4 races that we've held here so far. He was beaten narrowly by Team France's Alexander Premat in the first season in the feature race. He led until the last lap, and then Premat managed to launch himself past. Great racing here, but Neel Jani always seems to perform well here. He doesn't seem to mind the heat and the humidity, he just gets on with it, and he's on pole position at the moment.
It's amazing for a man who comes from the mountains of Switzerland to be at ease in such a equatorial climate, but a good car makes such a difference, a good balance, and the confidence that you like a circuit. In reality, drivers shouldn't have a favourite circuit. You should be able to perform at the top of your game everywhere that you visit. But racing drivers are human beings after all, and inevitably there'll be 1 or 2 places that have got special emotions and memories.
Well, there's a South African who's lived most of his life in Switzerland, but he's got to find a little bit more pace. He's currently 7th on the grid provisionally for the feature race. A little bit more time to be found by Adrian Zaugg, particularly where you bear in mind that South Africa are 1 point behind New Zealand. There's a few places, well, in fact, there's no places between them, are they? They're 6th and 7th provisionally at the moment. So, in terms of points, I suppose that's good, because there shouldn't be too much gap between them. Now then, let's ride on board. We're with Team Pakistan. We've got this great view just over the front wing there. That's the wing mount you're looking at, and we've got the telemetry feeding back to us exactly what's going on.
So this is the run down into turn 1. Watch for the 100 metres. There it comes on the brakes, and it's a question of whether you dive in early and hug the curb all the way around. You take the slightly longer route, but doesn't load the car up quite so much. Then get the car settled to go through turn 2, and then the run down the hill through these. It is turn 3. It's a series of little sort of threatening bits that bring you onto this, the second fastest part of the racetrack, up to around about, well, we're seeing just under 250 kilometres per hour. Then on the brakes, and in again to turn 4. Straightforward corner, nothing difficult about it. It's more about getting the car settled and straightened out. Backing off the throttle there, Adrian not very comfortable.
That's right, yes. Trying to be flat, certainly through the left-hander, maybe a bit of a breathe between the two.
And he had a fairly substantial run over the curbing on the outside of turn 6 as well.
So still trying to build the confidence with the car at the moment. Because he has been out of racing for a little while. It does take time to get yourself fully back up to speed. He's using 2nd gear there through the left-hander.
Yeah, I mean, when I did my track analysis laps, I was using 2nd gear as well. I don't know whether, in the case of India, where they were using 1st, they may have a very long 1st in to try and get the gap between the 1st and 6th gears as close as possible. It's something that some drivers may prefer.
Now into the penultimate corner of the lap. This is a crucial one, leading onto a long straight as it does. And then here we go. It's just all about horsepower now. And of course, all these cars are identical. They've all got exactly the same horsepower.
They do, but Adrian has got a fresh engine and needed an engine change overnight, so he's got a brand new spanking 3.4 litre A1GP engine built by Zytec. So on that side of the operations, he's got as good as it gets.
Now the target is Indonesia. Is he going to go faster? No, he doesn't, because Satrio Hermanto has gone a little bit faster himself. So Indonesia will stay ahead of Pakistan, and there's not quite the improvement that they were hoping for. Meanwhile, here comes India on track.
Yes, and just out of the pit lane, Australia on a hot lap. There we see Ian Dyke. The Australian driver goes through turn 6, takes the sweep. Try to make it one constant arc. Don't make it a sort of a half cut through between the middle of the corners. Then the drop down to turn 9. Good traction, no wheel spin coming out of turn 9. Then the climb, it's a gradual climb uphill. Run the car fairly far out to the left, and then just you get your apex. It's one of those corners difficult to pick up when you're sitting so low in the cockpit of a single-seater. And again, no lack of commitment from Ian Dyke as he goes through turn 11 and 12.
No, there never is there, John? He's watching.
I don't know why I bother saying it. No. We knew he's always going to be on it.
He's always on it. It's good. He's good to watch. He's entertaining to watch. But can he get the time out of the car? He was only 20th after that first segment of qualifying for the feature race, but he was probably on used tyres. So he's got to make this lap really, really count here if he's to drag something out and get a good starting position for Team Australia. Alan Jones down in the pits will be watching this very closely. Is this enough to really move him up the order? Across the line he goes, and that's a 49.868. Now that's put him into 13th place. It's a good improvement in time, but it hasn't quite got him yet into the top 10.
He's picked up 1.1 second, and that's probably more down to the tyre than it is anything else. Well, he's 13th, which is better than being 14th through to 22nd as we look at Neel Jani in Switzerland. And back now into the Malaysian garage with Alex Yoong. Alex Yoong's got a lot of work to do, a 150.102. Going on board with Narain. Karthikeyan comes up to start his final qualifying lap of the 4 he will have taken part in this afternoon.
Yeah, the clock starts ticking away in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Top left, we've still got that target time of Switzerland, the 1:48.425 in purple. It's the purple batch we're looking for. The purple times indicating the fastest times of the day. And with 7.25 minutes left in this final segment of qualifying, what can Karthikeyan do here?
He always runs the curves. He ran like coming out of turn 2. He's also using the latest on the brakes. Just keep an eye coming up here. Normally it's about 100 metres. You brake coming into turn 4. I'm sure that the Reid Karthikeyan will sneak that down to somewhere about 90, maybe 95. He does love the brake pedal and he uses it very effectively. Sometimes to the detriment of the car, the stability of the car.
So green, that means personal best to that point. So the first sector looks as though he's going to improve on his previous time. He's 11th provisionally on the feature race grid. So the green colour there on the S1 indicating that he's certainly improved on what he's done so far in qualifying for the feature race. There he goes. Now then, just got to keep that momentum going. He's got to try and sustain it, keep it smooth, not let it get too ragged. Looks quite tidy, runs the car out wide, but no problem there. And back down into this fast section. He's looking good, certainly looking to improve on his 11th place. He's going to be somewhere inside the top 10, but how close is he going to be to those front runners?
Well, he runs the curve everywhere you look on board of him. You see him right out to the very edge of the curve. Now this final sprint down the back straight, up to 260 kilometers per hour. Again, braking just inside the 100-meter board, locks up the brake. That's the difficulty. Braking late is wonderful, a great feeling for a driver, but it can unsettle the car, and a small lock-up like that in itself doesn't seem to be much of a problem, but it can shave those hundreds of seconds away.
India goes 6th fastest with that lap. It's a 1:49.543, only 2/10 faster than his previous best, but it has moved him well up. That's how close it is. Once you get into the 1:49s, boy, you're looking for every 100th.
Adam Carroll, Team Ireland, comes out. He's about to go onto a flying lap as he comes down this the final back straight. Keeps the car well over to the right. He wants to. In fact, you know, when you're not on your flying lap, you can take a different line into turn 14 to give you the best straight line shot off it. Whereas when you're on a flying lap, a different situation. So Team Ireland currently in 3rd place after that excellent 1:49.2 for Adam Carroll.
But remember, he's on used tyres here, isn't he? So to actually improve on that is pretty unlikely unless he finds something miraculous.
Well, I think the confidence he may have gained from that excellent lap may well encourage him to forget about the fact I haven't got new tyres. He might think, right, I've cracked it now. I know what I've got to do to get the time out of the car. And one flying lap, while it takes a small amount out of the car and out of the tyre, it ought not to be something that, if he didn't get anywhere near to matching that 1:49.2, he's going to certainly be in with a shot of being in the front 3 rows of the grid.
That's right, and that's what counts, and the car looks good there. He holds it tight, so that yet the car is sliding. There's a bit of correction there through 6th, but he holds it well, doesn't run too wide. And now he's got to keep it neat through turn 7. This is where we've seen the few in the gravel trap.
Oh, Adam, that's long. Well, I wonder, was that why? I suspect he saw suddenly just coming up ahead of him at a rapid rate of knots the back of the Italy car, and I think that Adam Carroll is, well, you can see just frustration, he just floored the throttle, and to all intents and purposes he's jettisoned this lap.
Yeah, that was a good save though, wasn't it? Let's just see. Or did the car in front have a little mishap and kick some dust up? It did look a bit dusty, didn't it?
Certainly on the inside of the corner, now whether there was dust or whether he hooked a wheel on the curve on the inside, whatever it was, it threw the car way off where it needed to be, and for Adam Carroll, well, the hopes of consolidating that 3rd place, maybe improving marginally, is questionable now. In fact, I think Adam Carroll's going to have to rely on that third qualifying segment, 1:49.2, to try and keep himself in the top 3 rows of the grid.
It's all greens for Germany as well. Personal bests coming up from Michael Ammermüller, and he could well move up. He could challenge Switzerland and France. A very fast lap coming up from him, but let's see what Ireland does. Ireland hoping to hold third. I don't think this is going to be any quicker. Remember, no, it's on used tyres, and that's cost him around 0.8 of a second. Now he's going to have to sit and wait. What's Germany going to do? Germany could move ahead of him. Yes,
second.
Germany's gone second. That's pushed Ireland down to fourth. Great lap from Michael Ammermüller, but he will come under threat himself from France behind and potentially from Great Britain.
We've got USA in a hot lap, New Zealand in a hot lap, Brazil and Mexico, they're also in a hot lap. Here we are on board with Jonny Reid coming up round into turn 10. We're watching Oliver Jarvis as Team GBR makes his way down the pit lane.
It's all happening now. We're into the final 2 3/4 minutes of qualifying here at Sepang, and the final stages of qualifying for the feature race. New Zealand desperate to move up the grid slightly from where they were.
Doesn't help, does not help. That's the back end of the car drifting away, and in that drift it'll also be time. New Zealand down in 7th on a 49.6. He should have improved. The lap looked very good, but that would have taken a couple of tenths away.
Brazil also want to watch, potentially, certainly up in the top 10. They're down at 14th at the moment, so Sérgio Jimenez could well move into the top 10. Now then, where's this going to place New Zealand? They need to be a little higher than they are. They're 7th at the moment. Oh, he goes one better, 6th, and I think they'll be a little disappointed with that. They were expecting more here, and here comes Brazil now, trying to move up from 14th place, and he does 4th! 4th place for Brazil!
Excellent, good run, Sérgio Jimenez, superb 4th place, 2nd row of the grid, bumps Ireland down onto the 3rd row of the grid, currently alongside Team GBR, who have just gone out. They're just completing their out lap, going onto a hot lap now.
Now, what about Canada? Robert Wickens, very impressive in the qualifying for the sprint race. Now he's got to try and do it all again for the feature. He's 5th on the grid for the sprint race. Can he do likewise for this one? At the moment, he's down in 10th place, so this needs to be a good lap. He's done a personal best, but he's 3/10 down on the first sector compared to Switzerland's fastest time.
Car didn't look quite as stable coming through turn 6, as we've seen. Another run from Rob Wickens, lets the car run out. He's got so much confidence in this car, just lets the car flow, and he just controls the throttle and steering. That's all he needs.
France also on a hot lap behind, so is China. But let's just focus on Canada for the moment. Can he keep it all together? Try and move up from 10th position and have 2 solid starting positions for both races. He's been finding it pretty hot and humid here this weekend from Toronto originally, although he's been spending the last few months in Europe, in fact, so everybody travelling from Europe certainly getting a shock to the system, dealing with this heat and humidity.
Too greedy on the exit, too greedy, too much right foot, and that will cost him a little bit. Canada currently on a 1:49.6. It should have been a quicker lap. It may well be fractionally quicker, but it's not going to be enough to put him up into the top 3 rows of the grid.
Let's see what it is then. He comes out of that final corner. Canada looking to move up from 10th position with new driver. No, he doesn't. A 49.726. It's actually a fraction slower.
Here we see again what happens coming out of turn 13. The car just runs too far wide, and it gets then on the curb, and it gets on the down slope of the curb, which drags the car further off to the left, and then crash bang wall at the bottom of the car gets a hammering. France, Loïc, Duval, neat, tidy, very, very efficient.
Indeed, and he's looking pretty strong at the moment. So the checker flag may be out, but these guys can still finish off their laps, and that includes Team GBR and France as well.
Team GBR is fastest in that first sector. We're looking at France coming up towards the end of their lap, up into turn 14. This is currently team, and now Switzerland have gone even quicker by 0.4 of a second in that first sector.
Wow, Switzerland are determined to keep that 100% record here at Sepang. Here comes France, currently 3rd. Now their main target may be to get onto the front row and displace Germany. Are they going to do that? No, they're not. Germany stays on the front row. China pops up into 6th place now. But what about Great Britain? What are they going to manage? We're watching South Africa here because they're a little further along on the lap. South Africa in 11th place.
That looked a bit of a struggle to me coming through the middle of turn 14. Not good for Adrian Zaugg. He goes up to 9th. He gets a small improvement by 0.3 of a second. But
here comes Great Britain. What's it going to be? He's 8th at the moment. Can he? He's front row. 2nd place for Oliver Jarvis. He's dragged it out again. Superb performance. But it's Switzerland that has taken the double pole position here at Sepang, and he's going to go even faster. Surely he's on a fantastic lap here. He's going to blow them all into the weeds by the look of this. Neel Jani out of the final corner. Watch the clock ticking away here. Is he going to be in the 47th? It's possible. Across the line.
Oh,
what a lap.
2nd faster than Great Britain. Well, I don't know, I'm absolutely speechless.
That is just a brilliant, brilliant performance by Neel Jani. He has taken pole position for the feature race by nearly 1 second, and Great Britain might have taken second position on the grid, but Neel Jani wanted to prove the point. He's got fastest sectors, purple, purple, purple. The ideal lap is what he's got, the perfect lap, if you like, for today. And you can see from the smiles in the pit lane what it means to the Swiss team. And he has now taken pole position for every qualifying session here that we've had at Sepang in the past 3 years. And that's a stunning performance by Neel Jani. Many congratulations to him, but Great Britain will be second. Germany, a superb third on the grid in Michael Ammermüller's first outing in A1GP. Again, he's done it, and he'll be fourth on the grid for the sprint race, third for the feature race. The Netherlands popped up there as well at the end. They're going to be starting in 5th place. And in terms of the points, South Africa and New Zealand, 9th and 10th on the grid for the feature race. It opens things up tremendously for some of the other nations to move up in the points here this weekend, and that's something to look forward to as well. A tremendous qualifying session then, but it's Neel Jani who comes out on top.
Qualifying action from Sepang over. The sprint race grid determined by sessions 1 and 2 looks like this. Neel Jani recording another pole start at Sepang. France in second with Loïc Duval back in the car, and GBR will start in third. Sessions 3 and 4 deciding how they're going to line up for the first feature race of this circuit at Sepang. Confirmation of that 100% record for Switzerland in Sepang. They line up in top spot. GBR in second, and Michael Ammermüller on his debut in third for Team Germany. Oliver Turvey of Team GBR and Tony Jardine joining me in the studio to cast their thoughts over that particular qualifying sessions. And let's start first of all by starting with session 1, Tony. Ollie Jarvis warned as to the pace of Switzerland before these qualifying sessions got underway. Just how blisteringly fast was Neel Jani in that first session?
Well, he was so quick and so confident that he just seemed to build on it through all the 4 sessions. But, you know, we're talking about a very, very experienced driver here. We're talking about a man, and that was just a little moment that he had there going through to turn 14. Lost a little bit of time and yet still managed to be so dominant. Very, very difficult, very deceptive track with so many lines in here. But he was discovered by Peter Sauber a long time ago. He's come through the ranks of being test driver in F1, IndyCar driver. He's just showing his class here.
You mentioned the deceptions of this track. Adam Carroll suffered in that first session by taking the car off it at one particular stage, Ollie.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was pushing a little hard and went off on the first run, so, but he managed to recover in the second qualifying there.
Just take us through what happened here and what went wrong for him here.
It looks like he's just carried in too much speed and not being able to get around the corner, and he's quite a long way off the track there, so it's not a small mistake. Not
just mistakes from Team Ireland, but also Team GBR in that first qualifying session, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long-distance shot, and I'm hoping Oliver can pick up what happened on that. It's a rare mistake from Oliver Jarvis, because he has been such a consummate professional, and he's such a joy to watch. That's Loïc Duval that we're looking at the moment. Another man who's really started. Great to have him back, because he was racing in Japan, and he's got something like 4 second places in the series now, but he's been strong through all the sessions too.
Here we go, here's Team GBR in action. Ollie, just talk us through this, as Tony was saying.
Yeah, it just looks like he's lost the rear end in the middle part of the corner, and it's just kicked him out over the curb. He's lost quite a bit of time there.
But this is the thing, Georgie, about this circuit. You know, it is a massive motorway. It's one of the original super tracks designed by Herman Tilke. And you can imagine, you say, which line am I going to take? And you're tempted to go that much faster. You end up on the curbs, you can end up on the sort of dust and the dirt, and then you make mistakes like that. And serious drivers like Adam Carroll and Oliver Jarvis have been making mistakes.
Let's look at session 2 then. Germany looking pretty good here under new driver Michael Ammermüller. I thought I was going to say Schumacher then, didn't you? But I wasn't. Michael Ammermüller. What do we know of him though, Tony?
Well, we know that he's had a very, very bad season this year because he injured his hand early on, but he has been a race winner in GP2. He has been a winner in world karting and European karting. I mean, I think you said he's got quite a good name in the trade, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He won the Formula Renault Eurocup a couple of years back, and since then he's had a difficult time, but no, he's definitely doing a good job on here.
The only problem he's got is he's a massive Michael Schumacher fan, but you can't be everything, can you?
Let's talk about Team France. We saw them just briefly in action there, but are they still capable of being the force that they were in season 1? Loïc Duval's now back in the car again.
Yeah, it looks like they're back on form, so it's doing a good job for them.
Yeah, I think that the French team have always been strong. They've always had this underlying strength. They have said that they really want to get back to their championship winning ways. But I think they're going to have to do it with Duval, and they need to get him seriously because he's got a big programme in Japan, which takes him away for a lot of the time.
We're going to skip session 3 because we're running short on time and get to Switzerland in session 4 because Switzerland has to be the story of the day here in A1GP. Certainly at Sepang, they did manage to totally blow away the opposition in session 4, didn't they?
Well, Oliver and I kept looking at the computer down here and saying, it's really that almost a second ahead, and they were. But again, you know, you're building on the confidence, you've got such a good setup. You notice that Max Velti, the team principal, he was watching closely. James Robinson there on his left-hand side of the screen, who's the engineer. You know him, he's done a great job engineering that car, hasn't he?
Definitely, James Robinson was the engineer at Great Britain last year, so he knows the car well. And it just looks like Neel, Jani's really got hooked up for the whole lap and just put it all together there at the end. But it's amazing to be a second up.
Thanks very much, chaps, for the moment. A1GP, unique in motorsport for putting drivers against each other on a level playing field, of course. Speaking of playing fields and fast cars, in a fortnight's time, the Race of Champions is turning the world's richest football stadium, Wembley, into a racetrack and bringing that man, Michael Schumacher, out of retirement to go head-to-head with a host of big-name stars. It's going to be some spectacle. You will not want to miss this. The Race of Champions, Sunday, December the 16th from 1:30 on Sky Sports 2. Not only, by the way, is Michael Schumacher back behind the wheel, but Murray Walker's back in the commentary booth and Damon Hill will join me in the studio on site. Our very own 3 times World Touring Car Champion Andy Priaulx will be trackside both in and out of the driving seat for us as well. Tony Jardine also with me. OK, after the break, we'll be catching up with Team Ireland's Adam Carroll. Fitness the theme this weekend. And after spending a session training with him this week, you'll get to see for yourself firsthand how fit he is and how, where I'm concerned, there's certainly room for improvement. Carl, your trainer's been looking menacingly at the pair of us throughout the course of the interview. How hard do you think he's going to push me in the training session that we're about to embark on?
Well, very hard. He's already told me earlier on, so, you know, I think I train hard, but you're in
Welcome back to A1GP Malaysia from the Sepang International Circuit this weekend. Now, we've had an extended break since Brno, so we thought it might be a good time to remind you of where the series is headed from here on in. Over the past 2 years, A1GP has travelled far and wide across the globe to a variety of different racetracks. This season is casting its net even further. This weekend, we're in Malaysia at the Sepang International Circuit for race weekend 3. December sees Zhuhai in China make its A1GP debut as it hosts the World Cup of Motorsport for the first time. 2008, and once again, the stunning setting of Lake Taupo in New Zealand will no doubt wow the race fans for a second time. A1GP back in Australia in early February in Eastern Creek, Sydney on the 2nd and 3rd. The popular street race of Durban back on the map this season. South Africa, the venue at the end of the month. The business end of the calendar sees a trip to Mexico City. That's in March. The penultimate round this season will be at the state-of-the-art Shanghai International Circuit in China. And this season culminates at the home of British motorsport, Brands Hatch, for the finale in May. Plenty there to look forward to. In a moment, your chance to win prizes in our Team GBR competition, which we're running this season. First, though, congratulations to Guy Kilby from Woodford Green in Essex, who's the winner from the Brno weekend. If you'd like to put yourself in the frame to win a selection of Team GBR goodies, including signed T-shirts, programmes, caps and photos, all you have to do is listen carefully to Team GBR's Ollie Jarvis, who has this weekend's question.
How many races has A1 Team Great Britain won? Is it 2, 4 or 6?
Just to confirm then, how many A1GP races has Team GBR won? Is it A2, B4 or C6? To enter, just send us an email at a1gp@skysports.com or go online at skysports.com/A1GP. We'll announce the winner in our next show from Zoo High. Don't forget that all winners throughout the season will automatically be entered into a draw to win a fantastic weekend's hospitality as guests of A1 Team GBR at Brands Hatch next May. Ollie Jarvis and Team GBR have certainly started their season well. One driver looking to step up his campaign is Team Ireland's Adam Carroll. One way of doing that is, of course, to be in peak physical shape. After a training session in the gym with Adam and his trainer this week, I can assure you he is, and I'm not. Well, before we got down to the business of a workout, I asked him his thoughts on his debut drive and podium finish in Brno.
My first one race, I expected to do well from myself. I wanted to turn up and at least get a podium, and that's what we were able to achieve.
Adam Carroll for Ireland. He knows what he's got to do, and he is 100% pure racer. Nothing else but racing is what Adam Carroll comes to do. Good drive for Adam Carroll in his debut for Team Ireland. For Ireland will be breathing a sigh of relief that Ireland are en route to get back on the podium since back in Portugal 2005.
To come away with the podium in the first race is what I planned on doing. Starting in fourth, you can do that. And unfortunately, qualifying for the feature race wasn't good, just with traffic and things like that. And basically, we started 18th, and you've nothing to lose. The team did a great job with the pit stops. The car was quick, and we had to overtake a few people. And we came through to 6th, so it was a good race, and I enjoyed it.
Adam Carroll is nothing if not brave. Not the outside for him, I'll take the inside.
The guys who've been there for 3 seasons are very, very good drivers and very good teams as well. So to come in, it makes it tough. So we just got to work really, really hard and push forward and try to win races, try to score as many podiums and points as possible, and hopefully we'll be up at the front when we're at the end.
I think we've got another exciting race weekend in store with Malaysia. Just tell me a little bit more about your views on that.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I've only ever watched it on TV. It looks like a very good circuit.
Have you used the PlayStation with it or not?
No. No, I don't really do that, to tell you the truth. One lap but walking the circuit and 1 lap in a car, and that's, you already know where the circuit goes.
How important is fitness in an environment like Malaysia?
The cars are very heavy steering, and it's quite a long race, like an hour and 10 minutes. And it's not so much the heat, 32 degrees or something like that. It's not so bad, but it's the humidity out there. It's going to be like 97% or something like that. So, when you live in England or come from anywhere around this part of the world, it's not exactly hot or humid. So, you just got to train very hard in the gym, get yourself very fit and strong, so you're prepared for the tough conditions. And we go out there early enough, so when you arrive on Monday night, you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, that's long enough really to acclimatise and get ready for the weekend.
Carl, your trainer's been looking menacingly at the pair of us throughout the course of the interview. How hard do you think he's going to push me in the training session that we're about to embark on?
Well, very hard. He's already told me earlier on, so I think
And I can promise you I absolutely wasn't. Tony Jardine, away from the fitness side of things, most notably me. He's up for the challenge, isn't he, Adam Carroll? He believes he has the ability to match the top drivers in this series. Is he right to think that way? Is he a likely challenger?
Yeah, I mean, he's a real quality driver. You know, I mean, he's been a test driver for BAR Honda. He came back in from DTM in the middle of the season in GP2 and he started winning. He's an amazing prospect, but he's not done very well in qualifying here. A 13th and a 7th. That's not the podium man from Czechoslovakia. He's got a lot to do. Hopefully, he can really overtake on this big wide motorway of a track.
Switzerland's Neel, the man to catch clearly tomorrow, though, Oliver.
He's looking like he's going to be tough to catch tomorrow. I mean, every lap in that qualifying session he was on it and a lot quicker than the others out there, so he probably disappear into the distance tomorrow.
We're going to hope that your namesake Oliver, though, just pips him to the post slightly. Chaps, thank you very much today. My thanks to Tony Jardine and to Oliver Turvey, who's running in a cross-country race a little later on. Don't ask me why. Which nation will dominate race day tomorrow, then? You can see the action unfold live from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, Sky Sports 3. No doubt about it, though, in the soaring temperatures of Sepang today, it was Neel Jani in the Swiss car who kept his cool the most. Join us for race day tomorrow. More sport, news and views at skysports.com.